fine.
Welcome to the Magic Raincast podcast, right?
Hi.
With me, CM Cha, and
Parts! Hi, I'm Parts.
nice.
I'm just gonna be the co-host today. The host is Cha. And of course, we have two lovely guests here today from Cellar Vault Games, Ishan and... Benny, yes. Hi! I was like, wait,
Right,
Ben
so-
something. I was like, okay.
Indeed. So, Benny and Ishan are from Cellar Vault Games, which is a very interesting name for a studio. Now, before I get into that, Benny and Ishan, can you introduce yourselves for the masses out there so that they all know who you guys are and proceed to support you in your gaming endeavors? Benny, probably first.
Hi everyone, I'm Benny. I guess I'll start very basic. So I'm born in Malaysia. I'm from Penang, and I came to first Damansara, come here to study degree in game development. I major in game design, and then soon after, I would say 5 years ago, I graduated and wanting to pursue in making games and try to represent Malaysia's. Like there's so many games out there represent US, American, Japanese games out there. I want something like Malaysia games that you can tell that that's made from Malaysia. So that's how Cellar Vault Games founded. And yeah, I guess next we Ishan can have a go.
Ishan,
Yeah, hey everyone, I'm Ishan Jaitalaka. I am the art department at Cellar Vault Games. I'm also born in Malaysia, born in KL, though no one believes me when I say that. Yes, a recent transplant to Sunway. And yeah, I think Benny and I met in college. I also studied game development, majoring in art. And yeah, we just realized during one of the major group projects that we had really good chemistry, and decided in final year with the worst possible decision to make a horror game, because that's totally easy.
nice.
And that's how it all started.
Oh, I see.
So, why Cellar Vault Games?
Like the name, where did it come from? Like, a cellar, like you just...
Oh no.
Why didn't you all go with something like BE Gaming, where you combine the first two letters of your names, your initials, and then because that's what all high school kids do, right? Like,
Yeah.
hey, let's make a gaming studio with both our initials,
Well-
because that sounds cool. But why Cellar Vault then? Because C and V does not represent B and E.
Okay, I mean, Isha, do you want to go with this, or I just...
Okay, I think I'll take this. So I think one of the original team members, when we were working on our final year project, actually looked up the most neurologically pleasant sentence in the English language, and apparently it was cellar door. So that's actually what we called our team name on the form for our, because they just said, like, pick a name, anything will do. So that's the name that we picked for our final year project. And then later on, when we decided to work on that project full time, and we tried to get it registered, the people at the office were like, "Do you sell doors?" And they're like, "No." Well, then it
Yeah.
can't
There
have
is
door in the title. It's like, what about vault? Like, that's fine. And they didn't ask us about whether we sold vaults. So cool.
That's
see.
nice.
Very interesting.
But eventually, the imagery just also stood out to us really, really cool. I think you can see it in the logo of our company, which is just like the idea of a basement and something hideous and dangerous living in that basement and coming out to torment your dreams. That was we definitely developed that after the fact, but we're super pleased that it turned out like that.
I was half expecting, both of you to be Fallout fans, with both the words cellar and vault being there. But
I mean, I am dating a Fallout fan, but also by second degree. So yeah, I mean, I get it.
Ooh,
It's-
shout out to
it's-
the girlfriend.
what about Benny? How did you agree to the most neurologically, or is it neurologically pleasing sentence?
I mean, I'm the one who at the government places to like. I was texting all the team members. Hey guys, door cannot use. Like the person say you tak jual pintu. I was like, oh damn. I was
Wow, dia
like,
tak jual pintu. Yes.
okay. I mean, I agree.
Definitely
I
the
don't
highlight.
sell doors. And then okay, then he listed out. I listed out a few examples. So people said, okay, vault, it's okay. I'm like, are you listening while you're talking? Vault is okay. We're not selling vault, so vault is fine. And then I asked
Hashtag
him,
bureaucracy.
yeah, they say like, yeah, let's go with Cellar Vaults because we are very bad at naming things, like come up with like game title and come up with, I mean, it's studio name, everything. Then we just go with it. And like what Ishan mentioned just now, and Cellar Vault Games really, almost really fit to our style. Sooner or later, we actually realized because Cellar Vault, it's like the games come from Cellar Vault. We can always play around with the logo, like because right now we are kind of focused on horror games. But in the far future, if we really focus on different genre games, we can change up the logo. Like say, hey, this kind of game can be much more prettier logo, more colorful things. That sort of represent as the games are coming out from Cellar Vault, which is all of us in like Cellar Vault companies.
So basically now it's like something that's from the depths of your nightmares, and once you go into sci-fi, it probably could have like glowing eyes and a much more futuristic lock, instead of a turnaround one, right?
If you do it right, those genres are sisters. They live next door to each other.
That's why I'm mentioning it, back to back. It's not me giving you any ideas, but I hope to see something amazing from you guys. Now moving on, right? Your first game, Short Creepy Tales.
Is it your first?
Is it your first game?
Right?
No,
This is actually, I think this is our first formal published game.
Oh.
yeah.
Right.
We've literally got, I think, one other out before this, but it wasn't something that we were doing
Is
seriously.
it the Long Road Ahead?
Yeah, that was the one.
Nice.
We're gonna touch on that later, but yeah, that was the first. I think that's our first published game, and this is our first like big kind of
So
really
this is-
polished release.
So this is your first commercial game,
Hmm
right?
Yeah.
All right. So, with that being said, right, Short Creepy Tales. What can you tell us about it, for the viewers at home?
Benny, I think you take this.
Oh, okay. So Short Creepy Tales 7 p.m. that if I want to talk a long one, because we used to, I guess we value like things, games, and very story-driven games, very narrative-driven, like really take a toll on character designs, the way they speak, and whatnot. So Short Creepy Tales is like we want to make an adventure game, right? It's a game that we finally want to touch on, really ties down to Malaysia, and you play as 3 children having adventure now in a day. Why is it called 7 p.m.? Because there's a significant event happen at 7 p.m. in the game, right? And then when you play around, you get to know about at the low-cost apartment neighborhood. It also gives us and allows us to tell the story like, hey, you're living in Malaysia in a low-cost apartment. There's a nasi lemak around, and actually based on Hungry Ghost Festival in that period as well. So you can get to know more culture and tradition around there. And then we even put the effort in like when it reaches the evening, and we actually put it in azan music like at the
Prayer,
background, so
right?
people people can immediately tell, oh my god, this is fine familiar, like, oh, I guess this is Malaysia, right? You can hear azan and everything. So that's where we are going for, and like very iconic nasi lemak. Who, I mean, usually people say the good foods are from Malaysia. I mean, or about SG, but yeah.
We don't talk about that. We don't talk about that.
We don't talk about food and SG, bro. Right?
Yeah, so I mean, I personally come from Penang, so when I come here, like, wow, there's so many stalls says that Penang Hokkien Mee, Penang prawn noodles and everything. And when I actually go to test it, I'm like, it doesn't taste like Penang.
Right.
I mean,
You're gonna get so much hate
knowing
mail.
that
Yeah,
I
yeah.
also agree with people enjoy the food. It's what it's called local flavor, like local neighborhood flavor, right? It must be best for you, but might not best for me, right? So that's like more personal opinions and preference when it comes to food. And I personally also take very heavy on food analogy on developing games, because I used to become when I was young, I really lazy, don't do homework, that kind of people, and my parents are hawker, So they forced me to go become hawker like when I age 8, I think 8 or 9 years old. Then I have to wake up early in the morning, 6 a.m., 5 a.m., and then don't go to school and go to hawker and experience it. How is it like to become hawker? Like become a server, the serve foods, calculations, the money and whatnot, the stress environment. So I guess that's kind of built me in a way that when it comes to make game X, also I use a food analogy, a lot of things in different way. Even recently, there's a class that I given workshop about game design. I use quite a lot of food because people who don't understand game development and game design, but everyone understands food because this is the thing that you always consume, right? It's like an example, like say, I watch people play a game like YouTuber and Let's Player, but for a game designer, we have to play it to understand the game. It's same like the food. I tell like, hey Ishan, I know there's a very good Hokkien Mee at a certain restaurant, then Ishan will feel like, how good is it? Then he have to eat it himself to able to judge like a gauge of how good, right? Because everyone's standard is different.
This is a conversation inspired by reality, by the way.
Yeah,
we had that argument. Like, what do you mean it's good? All right,
it's so subjective.
yes, it is. Yeah,
which really plugs in. Like again, this taste for flavor is a subjective thing. Taste in like what excites you and narrative is also pretty subjective. And it's about understanding the components and how they react, not understanding what is good.
And there you have it, folks. This background exposition that no one expected when asking about short creepy tales.
What is the game about?
It's a game about food and the analogy related to it and the hard aspects, as well as quality, values, and characteristics that you must have in the food industry to succeed in the gaming industry. Which I actually, it's very relatable. For those of you who can actually bridge that connection. And I mean, you guys have done pretty fantastic for yourselves, right? Clap for you guys, right? First commercial game, and you've already snapped up the
3 awards, right? The best visual art, best game design, and to top it all off with the grand jury award during Level Up KL. Congratulations!
Yay!
Thank you.
We are so proud of you, honestly. Like
mainly because you guys are Malaysian, right? Because
I mean,
yeah.
we gotta fly the flag. We gotta fly the flag.
Sure.
And so how does it feel? Because as I understand it, that you guys are a 2-man squad.
Just to confirm that, like we're a 2-man squad right now, but 7 p.m. was actually made with 3 people because we had an engineer that we had hired on contract.
Yeah.
He was excellent, but we just like again. In the process of making 7 p.m., we were really burning the midnight oil and just trying to like reduce all possible cost, get this thing finished, get it as polished as possible, and get it out there. So we couldn't afford to like keep him full time. And I think he also like he was an excellent engineer, but he also like his heart was in a different place. So we completely understood that. But yeah, I think the 2 core members, I think the 2 founding members are Benny and me. Yeah.
Nice. So with that in mind, how has that actually, knowing that you guys are a 2-man squad with 1 outsourced help, how does that feel? How does that make you feel when you win 3 awards, 1 for each of you guys? It's like each of you get 1 award. That's really nice. But how does that make you guys feel? At the end of the day, your hard work actually has paid off and it has actually received regional recognition.
Benny, I think you go first. My answer is complicated. I have to sit in my feelings.
It's not going to be as easy as food is good, eh?
I mean, food is good is not an easy question to begin with, so it's actually exactly like that question.
wow.
It's like, food is good to me! And then you start a war. Just like that.
Okay, let's see what Benny has to say.
But I also need time to think.
Oh, okay.
Nice. I like how you throw the basketball, right? You all go for the jumper. No, I'm gonna go for the 3-pointer.
Do you actually need some time to think? Because I feel like I maybe have a semblance of structure now to to make
Probably.
this
Okay, I
a-
guess Ishan, you can go first. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. First impact reactions were like, "Yay! Someone knows." Um, but I think I say it's complicated because on one hand, like it's obviously really, really good to be, hey, you did all of that, and there were times when it felt really, really bad and it was really stressful, and now suddenly it's done, and someone is saying, all that work that you put in, it meant something. So that's part of the nice feeling. But on the other hand of it, there's also these thoughts of like, well, that was really great, but I feel like we knew we did what we could to make 7 p.m. as good as it was, and I think we pulled out all the stops and we made a lot of sacrifices to get there, right? But at the same time, I also feel like I don't want that. I wouldn't want to ask anyone else to do that. I feel like founders who really, really believe in their work product, if they make that decision for themselves, that's cool. But asking an employee to do that is essentially the root of crunch culture. And so, yeah, I think where that puts me, like getting those awards is like, all right, like the recognition's good, and it feels good to have all that effort validated. But at the same time, I would also want people to understand exactly the nature of that effort, like it's there is sustainable effort and then there's non-sustainable effort, and I think it's really important that people understand the difference between the two. But it's really hard to understand the difference because where's the line between, oh, you're really hardworking and you're killing yourself for what, so yes, that's why I think overall, I think right now I'm just leaning in on I'm really happy that it was validated. But yeah, that's the other part of that feeling.
So
Mhm.
so just to address that part and give Benny a bit more time to think about his answer, right? Because we are stalling for time. Anyways, so talking about sustainable and unsustainable effort in gaming, right?
Mhm.
It's a notorious industry. Like, I'm not even going to like preface this. I'm not going to cover it. I'm not going to butter it up. Unsustainable effort. So, what do you think, in your opinion, is unsustainable effort? Like, what is the line that you would draw for a game developer, game publisher, and a software engineer? What is the maximum amount of hours, that you should be putting into a game, and what's the right amount of hours for you to rest in a week? I mean,
Like this is just your opinion. There's no like right or
Hmm.
wrong answer. It's just
Oh,
like yeah.
absolutely. I think first and yeah, Benny.
Do you want me to answer this, or you have?
this is
Uh,
I mean, you guys can both give your take
Yeah.
on it because it's your opinion.
Yeah.
And if it clashes, it's amazing because both of you work
I think
together.
Ishan, you can answer it first, and I just
Okay.
yeah.
I think first off, right, like if working on 7 p.m. taught us anything, it's that there is so much that we don't know about managing people. There's technical skill in implementing things and producing things, but there's like also managing people, and that is an incredibly difficult task because you're trying to get someone, like a bunch of people outside of yourself, to work on a common goal and feel motivated to keep working on that common goal, right? So I think I'm bringing that up to temper the fact that my answer isn't really founded on any like confirmed knowledge, I suppose. But that being said, I think everything, and whenever people are managing other people, and everyone's working towards like a common goal, right? You have to return to that calculus: is like, is this worth it? Um, and I think the problem with that is everyone has their own answer to that. Like, as a workaholic, you might think, sure, if I destroy my liver over the next over the next year because I'm not sleeping properly, and I managed to get this looking the way I want it to look and behaving the way I want it to look, I consider it worth it. But when you manage other people, you cannot expect your personal standards to be inherited by them. And I think it's important to develop a sense of conscientiousness about that these people work for you. They are maybe here because they like what you're doing, but they're here also because you're paying them, and you need to be constantly aware that you have that power over them. and that needs to be compensated.
Hmm.
So exact number of hours a week, I don't know if I have an answer to that. I do think though, I would never demand that anyone work over the weekend. I would ask and try and make sure that they knew that they had an out and do everything in my power to make sure that they understood that. But yeah, I wouldn't restrict anyone's working hours unless it looked like they were in trouble. Because some people like working in the middle of the night and sleeping during the day, and if that's your thing, go for that.
I see.
Indeed.
How about Benny?
I guess my personal opinion on that and my own knowledge on working in like engineers and designers and artists and everything. So let's take Ishan for example. I'm gonna shoot Ishan right now.
Oh wow, thank you.
Right.
Nice.
So
Which is
Ishan,
fair.
Ishan's most of the time that he have its own standard really high because it's his art. I also understand that, right? Who doesn't want his own work to be very perfect or too close to perfect and show to everyone else, isn't it? But at the same time that you also have to aware, not just healthy wise, have to aware that the scope of the project, what can you achieve with that amount of time? Because we are still human, we ain't a robot, right? So the same analogy or theory apply the same to all the members, including myself, right? Because I'm the manager of the project. I'm kind of sort of like the producer. And what's the feature? What's the things, the actions, the interactions, the visual you see, you hear, you play the game. The every details is in or out. I have to decide with that, right? And Ishan would argue with me like, no, I can do this. I can OT tonight until 1 or 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. and not answering anything at tomorrow morning for a while, or I can sprint for 3 days and then deactivate myself for another 3 days. Is that actually worth it? I really don't think so. If you do keep doing that, right? If you work for 3 days and stop for 3 days, that's like, why not just work for 4 days or 5 days straight and normally, and you just earn back the proper health, right? By doing so, just tell yourself that which is the most highest priority, most priority in art, sound, gameplay, design, and let's just focus on that and make that happen, rather than you put all different ingredients in the game and it ends up you have to fix all the ingredients in there. When I say ingredients, it refers to like the sound, the things that you see, you hear, and you play the game, isn't it? Right? So it's the scope, it's really important. And when we come to really hiring people, we always ask and have their permission like, hey, when you work in industries, do you want high pay, or do you want work with the games project you want in, or you like to work with us as a people to people, peers to peers, right? Some people like, I don't like you, but it's a good pay, I'll work for that for a while, right? We have to be very brutal honest during the conversations, because it leads to how's the project is going to lead towards, right? Like the scope of the project, the features of the project, and how we handle them, and try to avoid the crunch as possible.
All right. That actually sounds very much like this word called consistency to me, right? Like
Yes.
it's easier to run the marathon consistently rather than overclocking your computer at certain intervals to get the best out of it.
And then
And,
soaking it in mineral oil and hoping that works.
Yeah, and when you realize your water cooler and your internal cooling system is busted, right? That's not going to yield proper results later on. Very much like what Benny said. If you have to crank yourself for 3 days and then rest for 3 days or deactivate yourself for 3 days, but this is the industry, right? Because I've heard horror stories spending much more worse than 3 days, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I guess it's out. I think it's up to us if we need to create I mean, purely from my point of view, right now, because bigger games are being developed in Japan and America, and probably even in Europe, but the culture that it has set is one that is very different from the culture of those people. I mean, for Japan, I think it's normal, like for you to work until like 11, 12.
But I feel like they're like, not how to say they're not dealing with that very well. You know, the amount of like the mortality rate for like overworking is like increasing over the years as well.
Exactly, and it's stress, and there's also, I mean, that's one aspect of it is physical health, and the other aspect is mental health,
First,
right?
Yes.
I just hope that in the future Malaysia would actually set the culture moving forward for
Yeah.
how gaming studios are supposed to operate.
Yeah.
Like other people have like created SOPs for so many things. Why not we decide how gaming developers and publishers operate? It would be very nice to have like your investor talk over teh tarik rather than having your investor call over like a Seattle busy.
oh, that actually happens more often than you think.
Yes, exactly. Instead of like it being unknown knowledge, right? It should be something like a norm.
But I guess technically now it is this. Yes. It is this. This is the case because the gaming industry is just starting to bloom in Malaysia. Like honestly, like before this, like let's just say like 10 to 15 years ago, I don't think there were much like Malaysian games being created and becoming more mainstream and popular. So I guess like with time, I'm pretty sure like regulations and standards will be set, and there'll be a bar for you to follow. I also have one thing to ask, like based on what you said just now, about like working and time and all that. I want to know how long did it actually take for you to build this entire game? Like how many months or years did it take? It's a very like it's a question that I've been like wondering as I was playing the game just now. I was like, oh, this is 40 minutes game. How long did it take for them to make it? So yeah.
How long do you think?
How long do I think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Knowing that we are 4 people team originally, then we count down to 3 people.
Because
How
I think the
Yeah.
first initial 2 engineers were interns.
Oh wait, okay. I'll
I-
take a guess, okay? Because my favorite number, Chinese 8 lor.
Fuck lah. What?
Why is
Do
that
you
your
speak
favorite
8 months?
number?
I don't know. I just like reference his fingers. That's about it. Yeah.
8 months.
Okay. It was actually like 10.
Oh, okay.
10?
That's pretty close.
Close.
Although maybe a little bit more if you count like casual pre-production where we were talking about the idea before we committed to making it. But yeah, I think if we were to describe when we decided, all right, we're doing this, like this is absolutely happening. We have a projected release date. We need to be done by that point. Yeah, that would be 10 months.
Oh.
And
that's
by the way,
pretty
there's
impressive for 10 months of work though.
I mean, I think a lot of that came from the fact that before this, we were actually working on another project that was photorealistic in first person, and we made so many mistakes, like in the implementation for that, and ran into so many different problems. So by the time we started working on 7 p.m., we were like, all right, we know what not to do. Absolutely,
Oh, that's
Yeah.
where
good.
not to go.
Making the other
Yeah.
game was technically like a training ground for you to like.
I mean, at the
get into
time,
it.
at the time we didn't think so. We're like, we actually want, like, still kind of hope to return to that and develop it and release it.
Oh.
But at the time we were thinking like, making games can't be like publishing a game can't be that hard. Stupid child. But
I see.
yeah, I think
Laughs in
like
ignorance.
I think right, like as someone once said that some of the best, the most knowledgeable people have failed a lot, and learn from those failures. I don't want to say that was a failure outright, but definitely having gone through that and basically having encountered problems that stopped us from getting the results that we wanted on time, that definitely factored into us knowing a little bit more about how to cut those corners and how to like meet that deadline for 7 p.m. And there was like a cute little happy accident that we realized, I think 3 months away, that it was a cool opportunity that we could take advantage of. 7 p.m. was released in September, like on September 2nd, and that actually coincides pretty closely with the start of Ghost Month
Yeah.
in the lunar calendar.
It does.
And Yeah, and we just like, we saw that and we're like, yes,
Ah.
this is going to make so many superstitious people like really creeped out. And
I,
yeah, it was cool when people noticed that. We're like, yeah.
I had people say, I'm not sure where I read this from, could be like comments and everything, when they play the game or watch people play the game, it's like, oh my god, this is part of my dream when I dream like that. I'm like, no way, it's so similar.
Oh, yeah.
That
Actually,
is scary.
yeah. Oh wait, yeah, that is kind of scary. But anyways, like if I remember correctly, like around September as well, like when Halloween was just around the corner, I started seeing some people play the game on Facebook and Twitch as well, and I tuned in. I was like, oh wow, this is Malaysian made. And I was like, I've got like 20 other games. How about next time? And then like 3 months down the road, whoa, you guys won some awards, and now I'm gonna play this game right before I'm gonna interview you guys. So that is a lot of growth. How does it feel? All right, next question I have like for you, right? It's directed to Ishan because you're the art director, right, of this game. You're the art department himself, right? Like the art department is one person, right? All right. Since you guys have won the Best Visual Art Award in the SEA Southeast Asia Game Awards, how does it feel like for you?
A relief because I think a huge part of how I do my work is because I think if you were to compare me in terms of talent and in comparison skill to a bunch of other people in this role, I definitely fall short, and I feel like I need to spend a lot more effort to just get back to normal, and then even a little bit more to get back up to a standard that I feel is acceptable. So it felt like, oh, doing something right. Cool. More effort. I mean, I think people were already saying things like that about the style, like, oh, this is a really cool style. I'm like, thank you. But yeah, having it formally acknowledged, that was pretty cool. And it kind of like, I think in the practical sense, it kind of boosted confidence in me to think we could actually do this. Like, I actually don't feel like I wouldn't be able to come up with imagery if we had to like extend this and do another episode. Yeah, I think in terms of how it's affected me concretely, it's given me more confidence to approach other things. Mm-hmm.
It's like a high five from the upper hands, like, hey, you did well, son.
I like the stop motion imagery. How did you guys come up with that idea to pair with the entire horror setting?
Is this sequence?
Stop motion, as in you mean
You're talking about the way the characters move?
Sorry, yeah, the entire look of it, the cutout.
The paper doll esque,
Yes.
like cut out.
It felt very much like stop motion to me, but I mean, it's just the cutout. I mean, the cutout, the cardboard, the figures. How did you pair both of those elements? And before pairing it, how did you actually come up with?
Is it like your personal style to do the whole cutout thing, or is it just like
not at all? Actually, this is actually a combination of two like really key factors. One of which is pretty general. The other one's kind of throwaway, right? So the first general one is the concept of just paper. I think if you've ever been to a Buddhist funeral, or actually just been around during the Hungry Ghost Festival, right? You notice that like there's sort of these elaborate effigies made of paper that you can burn, that people burn to send to their ancestors, and apparently like a lot of people have made that into kind of an art for more and more elaborate things that you can send across to their ancestors.
Yeah.
You can send across a
Credit
card,
iPads, so cars, servers.
castle. Yes, I've seen it all.
I see.
Right. So
Headphones.
basically, so a throwback to Long Road Ahead, that the first game that we put out there but wasn't commercial, right? That around that time, right? That was when Benny basically said, "Hey, I feel like we're getting fatigued working on this other thing." The first game that I was talking about, the one that we didn't end up publishing, right? I feel like we're getting fatigued doing this, and I feel like you need a break, like just to break up the monotony of working on that. So let's do a game jam style thing internally, and and basically experiment with what we come up with, right? And he showed me a picture of these Joss paper buildings, and I was like, I want in. And
Oh.
yeah, so I think that was the foundation, right? But the character cutouts, right? I really wish that I'd saved the link for this, right? It's like kind of like based on this. It was this video on Facebook that I saw, which had combined this incredible. It was all physical, like paper pop-ups on springs, and the camera just drifted past them. So every time a new frame came up, it would literally spring up in front of the camera as it moved past backwards.
Oh.
And so I saw that and I thought, like, that looks awesome. If possible, like knowing what I do know about shaders, I want to try and replicate that look. And I think I definitely didn't get that look down exactly because there is sort of like the bounce motion of it coming back up to the camera, and it wouldn't that didn't really fit the gameplay environment that we were going for.
Yeah.
So the next best thing was like, all right, if these characters are going to move, like the objects can move in physical space, but we do want a certain part of it to be frame by frame animation. So yeah, that's something that we committed to, about like anything that was contained to a surface. If something was going to move on top of it, it was going to be in that frame, that like frame by frame style.
Nice.
It's funny that you bring this up, because we were at an Unreal development hangout a few days ago where I actually talked about the shader, and it was really terrifying because there are a bunch of technical artists at that meetup, and I was like, they're gonna look at this and think you're crazy. Why did you do it like this? And sure enough, like one of the senior engineer technical artists looked at him and was like, we have a node for that. And I'm like, thank you. Message me. Send me screenshots, please. Thank you.
I see.
Yeah.
Very insightful. Thank you very much. Yeah.
And what about best game design? Who does game design go over to Benny?
Yes, absolutely.
How did you envision the interaction between the characters and the ability to change certain outcomes and deny certain outcomes, and the overall game environment and the setting for 7 p.m.
I guess how where should I start? I guess let's start with because I guess that's a bit of like roles and responsibilities. So game designs have like gameplay level designs, and me and Ishan, both of us also did like the writing, like how they speak, how they react, because that's what character design, right? So the character doesn't speak like I do, means Benny do. It speak like that character, means Wen, Loon, and Abeng or Asen, those kind of people in the game. So we have to figure out like how do they speak, and I have all the first draft, and then I put into the game. I pass it to Ishan. Ishan really is like, hey, I find these all the weird. Then we have a very very fast iterations back and forth to really test it out how these people talk. And we also want to try our best to do, which is really hard thing to do, like adding in our slang, right? Our Malaysia slang, like speaking in English in a way that it's because humans are not perfect grammar. We don't want to write a perfect grammar sentence because people always tend to speak in their own way, right? And we also want to try to play with the idea of they are children, so they won't be using high level vocab, right? Aside, so you can actually immerse that this is how they talk and this is how they interact. So that comes with the writing aspect. So when it comes to game design, so at first because we value narrative driven games, and because this game is narrative driven, we obviously start with narrative first. Well, what story we want to tell, the story we want to tell, and how it ends, right? What's the ending of the story? And then at that point, so all right, I will draft have a discussion with Ishan, like what kind of environment we want to focus on within that time frame. Like it's able to finish the art assets and whatnot, right? And so we work with that like only in a low cost apartment and few of the apartment units. And then that gives me a choice that there's a space I can play with, isn't like level designs, a space you can walk to, the place that you can reach, the place you can see with the people over there. That's the place you can tell that that's a Jaws paper, that's a Uncle Yao burning the Jaws paper over at the outer inner courtyard, and outside the auntie sitting there, and some other places, nasi lemak, and all these different places is point of interest. That's level design. Then when you gameplay, that's we keep it very simplicity. Basically, when you want to progress the game, all you need just to have to talk. You have to move around and talk to people. That's it. That's all we ask from you. We don't ask for you like do very complex thing. We don't ask you like kill some n amount of monsters or n amount of papers, n amount of money.
Yeah.
All those things that we throw it away, right? Because that's not the things that we want to do, because that's an entirely different design.
Yeah.
Right?
That's true.
So we also keep it with very simple puzzle games. It is not like heavy required mind power to really solve the puzzle. We just tell you like, hey, you have to do this, and you can get it right after you read the sentence. Like, okay, I know what to do, because it's very conventional. You always see it in movies, you see it in live, you hear it from people. That's what we call real world reference. We reference to real world, so you can immediately relate to what we are talking about, because it's real life, rather than making fantasy games. That's really entirely different, because they have to describe every different things and what you do in the game, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. So that's really nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go on.
Yeah, it's okay. Sorry. Me too. Oh, sorry. Sorry. All right. I want to add on that. Onto that. What you just said, because you focused on this game being a narrative and the levels go as you talk to people. Is that why you implemented the mechanic of like how as you progress in the game and you make certain like choice of speech, there is different like pathways and endings?
Yes.
That is exactly why, right?
It's not different endings, but it's more
it's
like
the
in the
ending.
middle.
Different experience
Yeah.
throughout to
Yeah,
that ending.
it's different experience. It's not like
Yeah,
because
I
at
was
the-
playing and then I missed the Uncle Yao burning the joystick thing, and then I realized I couldn't go back, and then I was like, oh my god, did I just miss the achievement? And then when I checked back on Steam, right, I only got like half. I was like, wait, this is not right. Yeah. So basically that's the reason why.
Lead game, you can see the completionist in her. So
yeah.
We were definitely hoping to tickle any completionists, because I think it is nearly impossible to get all the achievements on a single playthrough. You have to go back at least once.
Such a great trap, isn't it?
By the way, there is so much to unpack there on what Benny was saying about the mechanics not being challenging, because and I think it's about the priority of narrative, right? There is a difference between a game being difficult and a situation being difficult to the character, and you can kind of see a similar kind of trade-off being necessary for people to understand in other like bigger layers of game design, right? Because like there was sort of this emphasis in the last 5 years on games getting more realistic, like photorealistic, right? And also maybe mechanic realistic. And very quickly people realized, okay, when something gets too realistic, it becomes unplayable. And so there is a balance to be struck between, it needs to be realistic enough that it's exciting, but it also needs to have certain things able to happen non-realistically so that it's still playable. And that's a trade-off that people have to decide, have to work out for games, even where there is a challenge. But narrative games are in a much weirder place, because I think to sort of like reference a personal part of this, right? I play weird games. Like I think that I have maybe one or two relatively conventional games in my favorites box, and one of those is Half-Life, right? But besides that, right, I don't actually play. I don't actually play a lot of like common genre games like Call of Duty or Mass Effect or anything with or like Black Desert Online or anything with like an established system, right? I go after those games which have like really weird mechanics or really weird esoteric stories, and a feeling that comes regularly is I am okay with a challenge as long as it doesn't frustrate me enough that I can't get to the rest of the story. So that I think is something that we tried to prioritize with 7 p.m. We wanted it to feel adequately challenging, that you wouldn't feel like, you were just, that there was nothing to do, but at the same time, we didn't want to stop you from finding out what was going on. And that was tough, admittedly.
I like how both the titles that you mentioned belong to Electronic Arts. The
So
notorious.
I mean, they do now, and I don't know about how.
Okay, Assassin's Creed. Okay, let's put some Ubisoft games in here.
Right? It's such a coincidence that you mentioned the
Is
most
it?
money-hungry
Is it
publisher,
though?
Yeah.
right? That's existing here, right? And so, I mean, that's like I said, that's just a coincidence. But
Totally.
moving from that aspect, and as Benny was talking about narrative-driven games, right? I think a lot of games today they lose focus, and they also don't understand their narrative position. Even AAA games, right? Um, some games they know exactly what they're about, right? And they lean into it. For example, take Path of Exile, Diablo, etc., etc., right? They are gameplay driven games, right? And they know their target audience loves to kill mobs,
Yeah,
get
grind
better
mobs and
loot,
everything.
right?
Yep,
Grind
yes.
the hell out of it,
Yep.
min max your way to become the best, right?
Yes.
That is gameplay driven. And then you have games which are narrative driven, which are like God of War, right?
Yeah.
I feel that God of War is a perfect blend between narrative and gameplay.
Gameplay. Yes. yes.
I feel that's my personal opinion, but I still feel that it's much more entrenched in the lore and the story, because you have like 3 or 4 games before that. So I would definitely say it goes under, as funny as it may sound, because Kratos has a beef with the pantheon of gods from across all religions, right? So the fact that he decided to go after the Norse gods this time around itself it's like a crazy thing. And when you have that level of depth and the change in gameplay and the change in narrative, right, it showcases that characters can change over gameplay and over gameplay design, right? But the problem here, I feel that a lot of games today, they don't understand that. And it's nice that for a small company, a small and upcoming company like you guys, to have that exact focus. And right, you're not going to go for X amount of kills and N amount of money. You're just going to tell a story, make sure the story is good, and focus on the immersion level of that storyline, and see if people are willing to go and be a completionist, right? Because that's exactly what you want people to do. You want them to play the games over and over again and understand different facets of what they're trying to tell, from a storytelling perspective, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And the setting itself is really niche, right? The Hungry Ghost Festival isn't like a public holiday in Malaysia, despite every other festival getting a public holiday.
I feel like we have too much public festivals, not gonna lie.
That's
Public
true.
holiday is not gonna lie.
No, we don't.
What?
So, right? I don't exactly know what you are talking about, but I know we don't have enough. As far as public holidays are concerned, I think Hungry Ghost Festival should be up there, right?
At least one day lah, right?
Yeah, Good Friday, right?
Yeah.
Bad Friday, just giving out a few ideas, like
Is Bad Friday the Friday that follows Good Friday the next week, when everyone's like, "Oh, I should not have drunk too much I shouldn't have drunk too much on Easter. That was bad.
Is it?
Don't do that again.
No,
Bad."
right?
no,
It's the
clearly,
13th. Oh,
no, that's like May 13th.
No! Friday the 13th is Black Friday, right?
No, Black Friday is a sales.
Black Friday.
I think
Bad
Black Friday
Oh,
is like
Bad Friday is.
Bad Friday. Bad Friday is the day when you wake up and you don't feel like going to work.
Sorry,
So
excuse
there's-
my Gen Z-ness. I will apologize and sit back. Okay, sorry. Go on.
Black Friday is a sales day.
Oh, okay.
Cyber Monday is also a sales day. But enough. I regress.
Singles Day and 12/12. Let's just keep naming shopping
Right.
holidays.
I mean, the Hungry Ghost Festival. It's such, even among Malaysians, it's not that well known, to be honest. So why did you guys decide to go for this particular narrative festive setting?
Like, what is the inspiration behind like choosing this part of the festival? I mean, this festival in general. Is it like based on a personal experience, or like you just generally have interest in it?
I would say the first thing it's really ties down to Jaws paper.
Oh.
That's
so imagery all the way through.
that's the first idea pops in our head, and the things that we first try. Obviously, that's the drive. Right now, it's drive the art style, right? The art concepts and everything. But knowing that, and another reason is because I'm Asian myself, that I know a lot of Hungry Ghost Festival, because this is right at my backyard. That's what we call Hidai and everything. All those things happen over there, right? And I'm not sure this is true or not. If it's not, anyone can scold me or anything. So
Go for him in the comments.
yeah. Or you can email and scold me. So we Penang people are very, I would say, Asian driven. Like things that there's a lot more on Asian populations, and I would say maybe it's really pride and proud. I can tell in Penang. I'm not sure. Even for people here, I'm not entirely really 100% sure, but I guess that's where I'm come from, and that's why I'm living in that environment, in that neighborhood. I feel like I can really nail all the informations and the things that I experienced to tell the story in 7 p.m. as surround with the premise in Hungry Ghost Festival. I hope that's answered the question.
And to add on to that, I think you don't have to go too deep to find some really, really cool, creepy details with the Hungry Ghost Festival. I think there are a bunch of other festivities, and most of them are sort of like, they're upbeat and positive and celebratory, right? Whereas the Hungry Ghost Festival is one of those festivals which is all about caution. You know, it's like, don't wear these colors, don't like pin your hair up really high, or something bad. It's kind of like ripe for the picking, right? You can just see all of the spook details that go into making this a prime candidate for that kind of storytelling.
I see. Very, very interesting. All right. Now, like, since we are in the making of the game part of this podcast, I want to ask you, what were the main challenges that both of you faced when you were making this game? Like, what was hard for you guys, other than the sleep deprivation and the kidney, you know?
I can start.
Liver. Sorry.
I can start with this one, then maybe Ishan can add up what I say. Our first thing is obviously the tight budget and the people we have, and we really need to be very smart to use what we have. We can't say that we want to do something extra, because even for game design and game art, right, or even tech, people always want to try something new to achieve something bigger. So we always have to self-aware that, hey, I don't want to achieve even bigger stuff, but this is what we can do perfect, or at least in a certain quality. Because me and Ishan also agree that 7 p.m. it is not still the maximum potential of the things that we can do, because of the tight budget and tight time and the people we have, the 3 people. So we can push even more further if we can give enough people and time or budget. We can push even higher quality for that. But at the same time, that we want to keep it simple and have a quality and able to really tell the stories and deliver the art style. So I guess that's the really big challenge for us to manage that expectations, I guess.
Yeah, just to add on to that, right? Like there were countless times during production where I would pull Benny aside and say, I want to be clear, I'm not suggesting that we make this feature, but I did have this idea about what if there were like a bunch of other apartments that were accessible, and you could like go in and like talk to those people in an isolated setting. And I think that really drives home the fact that the idea that there was so much more that could have been done that we wanted to do that we didn't do, because whenever you add an additional narrative branch, what comes with it is the possibility that it'll break and the requirement for testing. So I think if something that a lot of people told us when they first played 7 p.m. is they said, this is really, really polished for something that 3 people did. And I think that's what confirmed to me that we made the right call, because we decided to make a relatively short amount of gameplay time that was highly curated and we made sure that every part of it that we could see was was very finalized versus having a lot of content that you might have a janky experience going through, you know. So and yeah, that really all came down to having really tight resources. Everything had to count. Every day, every like day of development time had to count. Access to the engineer had to count. Like we literally had to like his contract was going to expire right up before the month of release. So it was like, we need to be done by this date. It's not a question of like, delays are out of the question. It's like, we're going to get this done by then, or we literally won't have someone to do implementation past that date.
I see.
And that, yeah, and that was a huge limitation. But I think we have learned to like exist inside constraints very well after our history of working on those other projects.
Yeah. I guess I want to add another thing when Isha mentioned engineers things. I think even then, right, we have to really careful to think and plan well on the fundamentals. The fundamentals on art, on tech, and design. Because if you don't have, it's like the building of buildings, right, or skyscrapers. If you don't have very strong fundamentals, if you build higher,
one side will sink and crash into the other cityscape.
Anything at all to add anything stuff in design, it will just fail. Or the whole thing will fail.
Very insightful. Yeah, I do agree with that. Like sometimes, like, you know, you don't bite off more than you can chew, and you just work with what you have, and then you make it perfect. That's the perfect mix on how you guys created this game and made it so, you know, purposeful with every move. You can tell like how everything links to each other like perfectly, and you know there's an intention for all of that. But okay, other than the making the separate apartment block, you know, for people to go in and talk to the people, if you could go back in time, and if you had more time to develop this game, what would you have added into it?
Oh, don't do this.
Oh, why?
A lot of things.
Too much stuff to list on a single hand.
Your favorites, perhaps? Yeah.
The highest priority, I would say. Okay, it's really hard to say this because to us, right, if you want to deliver a really quality in one single thing, it relates a lot of different factors. It relates a lot of different roles and responsibilities. I give you for example, right? If let's say we want to bring it 7 p.m. or let's say it's called 8 p.m., which is not real. It's not real, okay? 8 p.m.
God.
We want to up a notch on horror aspect. So people would think like, okay, not everyone, but some people would think that what's so hard on making just increasing more horrifying? Isn't just adding jump scare? Isn't just adding more disgusting imageries or more horrifying image? But to us, it's really ties to every different aspect. One thing, the BGM and sound have to be very up to notch to deliver that horror aspect. Second, the story and narratively, and the people who talk about that whole thing, it has to be set up and built up and released just like how we watch a movie, right? You can really tell what comes next and everything because it just follows the same, I would say, format again and again and again. It just like, it really boils down to how actor and what's the writings, how they act, right? How the sound is. That's just the things that only we can judge on because all the horror movies are almost the same, right? It's just we watch it for the actor flavor, right? Or the writer's flavor, or the craziest, wackiest, wacky things that they can deliver out. So we really want to up a notch on horror. We have to relook back on the narrative, on the writings. We have to relook at the gameplay and level design. And when you do that, and then Ishan will like, or the art team will like, okay, we have to deliver more art assets. We have to create more animations. We have to think about visual effects. We have to think about processing effects, right? But this is all development terms. So the point here is that it's a lot more that we need to do just to like, hey, we want to make horror better, or you want to make a next more horrifying game on 8 p.m., which is again, it's not real.
That being said, I'm sort of going to reinterpret that question about like literally what we would do differently or additionally on 7 p.m. itself. I think I think I would nail it down to like 3 major things. I would absolutely make the first part where basically the intro conversation. I would love to make that playable
Make that
instead
what?
of being. I would like to make that playable instead of it being on Rails, because I remember working for a long time on that scene and thinking, all right, we have so little time to do what we need to, and if you turn the camera in literally any other direction, you will see the edge of where the set pieces end. And yeah, so it's basically like it's like it's one of the sceneries, right, that I really, really loved, but was the least playable in the entire game.
Yeah.
I would love to go back and make that tighter and more explorable, so that like the intro, basically the lead up to the main part of the gameplay actually has its own set of like details that hook you in, and you actually get to interact with some parts of that part of the festival, right? I think so. That's the first thing. The second thing would be I would get someone else to do the music, because I think as we kept nailing this in, right? Shoestring budget. So I did all the music, and I have like barely any, like, I know how to read music, and I think I have like an understanding of pitch. I don't have perfect pitch, but I understand relative notes. So I know how to string together basic music, right? But in terms of doing it quickly and doing it in more complicated variations, that's something that's just beyond me. So all the tracks that you hear, right, and all the stuff that's on guitar, I don't play guitar. The way I did that, right, was I actually basically tuned a guitar in a really specific way, put it on my lap lengthwise, and played out notes, and then recomposited those into a usable score.
Wow.
So yeah, like I think it's great that it worked out, but at the same time, I would have liked more options. I would have liked tighter emotional control, and working with a musician and a composer would have really hit the spot there. And I think so. That's number two. And the third most specific thing that I would have loved to expand, and we did it. We literally wrote an entire background for possibly expanding this as a DLC, right? Was the Uncle Yao story. The guy in the courtyard. So I think right now it's sort of like, I'm not gonna give anything away for people who haven't played it yet, right? But I think you noticed. Did you actually go back and talk to him?
Yeah.
On the
No,
second
I
playthrough?
actually watched the Lao Wu. He did
Okay.
this video. It was so funny. Anyways,
Oh no.
because I missed the part, I was like, I need to start again. Not today, because I need to like write the draft the questions for y'all. So I went to watch the gameplay, and then it's like, I know what happened. His son.
Right. Yeah, so basically, there is like I wrote like a whole background on what happened to his son, and how one could actually like find out what happened to his son in the courtyard somewhere. And we actually like planned all the possibilities of like, all right, how would you access it? What's the set work gonna look like? What's the progression gonna look like? And it was really like, we did it all in the understanding that it was pipe dream, and we couldn't finish it before our September release date. But yeah, if I had my way, that would be core. I would actually have that added in as part of the main gameplay experience, where you could actually go off and find this out, and basically it would really enrich it.
Right? You don't really know what happened, but the kid appears for a bit with the writing on the wall. It's like, oh, what?
Yeah. I think the details give you just enough about like, okay, you know, literally that someone died and that there's like an emotional tension, but you don't know anything else, and you technically don't need to know anything else. But yeah, in terms of wish list stuff, I would love people to sort of like get into that story of what happened to Uncle Yao's son.
Come on, DLC.
Yeah.
My only advice would be, if you need to work with a composer, go to YouTube masterclass with Timbaland. This apparently like he can make like music in like 2 minutes based on the ad. But that's totally up to you. Like I expect you not to place your guitar flat and try to compose So like he makes a banger in like 2-3 minutes. So they just click a few buttons. So yeah.
You can learn almost everything on the internet, right?
Yeah, masterclass, Timbaland, right? Pro tip.
That was a dark period in the development process.
Moving forward, right? You guys actually won the Grand Jury Award. Now, that is like a pretty big achievement in itself, right? Because having a bunch of judges or the jury align their expectations and their thoughts on one single matter is it's infinitely terrible. It's really hard to do, right, as you can see by the Game Awards 2020 this year. But anyways, you have you have achieved that award in 2020. My question is, your predecessors, right? In 2018, it was No Straight Roads by Metronomic, right? By One Hasmi. And I think last year, 2019, was Gigabash under Vincent, right? So, how does that feel that you guys are actually in the footsteps of these giants,
And you're on budget,
right? Like, how does that feel? Is that like, I mean, no pressure,
No pressure.
right? With all the pressure in paper, right?
My sweat is-
Right, right. You have One Hasmi who,
Work in Final Fantasy.
yeah, Final Fantasy 15, right? And you've seen Passion Republic, their work, their graphics, their animation is like really, really smooth, right? Like, I loved just beating up all the monsters and all the robots in the arena.
So well implemented. Just props to them.
Right? Yeah, it feels like a
They just did amazing work.
it feels like a 3D isometric Super Smash Bros. Rather than the side-scrolling one that we are so used to.
Yeah.
And we actually worked with One Hasmi. We for Level Up,
Yeah,
right?
the launch of No Straight Roads up to No Straight Roads.
Right.
Yeah, somewhere in
and
the middle. Yeah.
and the thing that screwed most of the plans over was COVID, right? So they were supposed to have like a huge launch, props to One Hasmi. The game released, right? That's the best thing, and they profited. That's another thing. We are also going to work with Gigabash, right? And we are also hoping for the best for them, right? Because they're flying the flag, right? They're really nice people, great stuff, right? Great representation. So how does that feel when your bloodline and your legacy is carried by these guys?
Strong words. Bloodline. Benny, actually, do you wanna take this first? I do have something, but yeah.
Benny has sweats.
I can see it from the reflection.
when you put it that way, I'm like, whoa. Because honestly speaking, like at least I
Didn't know what it was.
Yeah. Then like, whoa, we got Grand Jury. Like, whoa, what? Like, how? Like,
But by the way, so like an unfortunate occurrence, right? I missed the award ceremony because I forgot what day it was happening.
Oh,
And
you should not have said that on this podcast.
and basically when it was going on, Benny messaged me on WhatsApp and he said like, "Are you watching the awards?" And I'm like, "What awards?" And,
I was like, what the hell are you talking?
and basically like when he said, "Oh, by the way, we were waiting for a bunch of categories that we were hoping for." And when Benny said like, "Oh, we got the Grand Jury," and I was like, "Yay! What is that categorically? What does it mean?" Because again, I wasn't watching, so I didn't get the description, and I don't think it was like in the info card. So like we had to wait after the fact to actually find out. Oh, okay, so that's what it meant to have won the Grand Jury. And like again, way delayed. I looked up all the details about like who had won before and how they chose it. And this sort of like about how it feels and how it makes me feel, right? This kind of ties into a conversation I had with Benny's girlfriend and one of her friends who's a colleague of hers, right? And this colleague, she said her dad had played 7 p.m. and he felt like so moved by it. And I think I understand the impact that it made, was that it was just so matter-of-factly locally representative. You know how that it is a lot of, I think a lot of mentors over the years have sort of told us like, try and soft sell Malaysian culture. Don't push it in, right? and there is a delicate balance there because like soft selling and just not putting it in at all, it's so easy to fall off one side into the other. And I think what a lot of people got when they played 7 p.m. is you could sort of feel where it was set, which is, as you can imagine, not that common. It's not that common because it's not that easy to do. As I think, as before we were talking about writing the dialogue, right? A lot of Malaysian slang and Singlish, right, doesn't translate well to text. It's not easily written down because the spelling of that, or the misspellings, the sort of consistent misspellings are not exactly agreed upon. Getting the sound to be communicated correctly in just text is not that straightforward, because again, many people write it different ways. And I think the fact that we tried, you could actually sort of see that we were actively trying to communicate that. Like anyone, I think, who had heard that kind of speech before and who had seen that sort of like passive environment before, they felt it click.
Yeah.
And that was pretty cool to hear, because up until that point I thought, like, you know what, we're doing this for us. Like, we just want it to we want it to be matter of factly that it's set here, right? We didn't actually think that anyone would notice it starkly or have a strong reaction to it, but that like showed up really strongly on when we saw playthroughs of it on YouTube. And like I said, the situation with that colleague's dad. And I think it does sort of like enlighten something about representation and how that moves people when they feel seen. And I feel like this sort of went a certain distance in doing that for people in Southeast Asia.
Nice. Benny, anything?
No. I guess I just agree that's it.
But a compliment I give you is that it was very nice to have the small like asterisks at the bottom. It was like, reading
Yeah.
a book, and then it's like, la is the way Malaysians want to like emphasize a point,
There's
not
like
la.
such American comic way, to like.
Yeah, like the
footnotes.
asterisk, footnote.
Please
What we
refer
call
to
the
issue.
feature footnotes.
Right. Please refer to issue 234
They
for what
flip at the
happened.
back of the book. Oh, that's the meaning. Yeah. That's a very nice touch to it. Like, thank you for that. Like, but I feel like you could have expanded like slightly more with like the way things are placed like inside the game. Like just a little more, like a short like description or a text like this is how we do it in Malaysia. Like, just sell it a bit more would be like the best. Yeah, yeah. That's
Well, I mean, again, we're hoping to get another crack at that, so
yeah. But it's just my
Fingers
opinion.
crossed.
It's okay. It's fine. Just put it there. Oh, I also really like how you put the Grab driver at the door. Step the.
Oh
Yeah, that
yeah,
was very cute.
just
Yeah.
like very very conspicuously not Grab
It's
anywhere to
a-
be seen on the surface. It's just like, it's green.
Oh, great. Oh, it wasn't. Oh, okay.
I mean, it is, but it's like, if you actually
Ah.
look at the textures, there's nowhere does it say the word isn't spelled out anywhere. So like,
I see.
avoiding lawsuits like a boss.
Avoiding lawsuits like a. Alright. Okay, let's just pretend I didn't say that. Okay. No. Nothing happened. But we're
This,
gonna continue.
this Investors Day is it's so great, right? Like so many
Yes.
people involved.
Absolutely, so many.
Of course. Okay, now that now that we're moving forward and progressing as time passes by, we would like to talk about the future. Woo!
Such a magical
Yes.
place.
Such a magical place. You don't know what's happening, but you know it's gonna be great, right? Alright, so
I mean,
now alright, now since you've got players like engrossed and like invested into the storyline of Short Creepy Tales, as well as your entire studio Cellar Vault, what are the new games that are going to be coming out soon? Like, this is just it's a question, yeah.
Benny, how much do you want to say about this?
Ooh,
I don't know.
to discuss first.
Plug it in, right? Like If you're not gonna plug it in, you gotta plug it in, yo.
I mean, I already stopped off your profile, huh? You know, right?
So every,
You know what
no.
happened when you saw the friend request.
Oh,
Anyways, I've looked through the Steam, your Steam account, and I saw that there's a new game coming out. It's called The Plight, right? What would you like to tell the
don't
viewers
worry,
about it?
you know, MDEC is watching this, you know, MCMC is watching this, Grab is watching this, Starbucks hopefully is watching this. So,
Oh,
you know,
no.
right? I mean, I want to say like my local Pasar Malam is also watching this, but
Oh,
since that is not the plot of your next game, right, can't really pitch you guys for that. But yeah,
I guess I don't mind. Okay, Ishan, would you mind that I say about the plight?
I think go ahead.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that.
So
Board meeting first, and then only.
yeah,
Conference.
if you do on spot, that's a special. Everyone can see this meeting. Okay. Anyway, I guess just about the plight. So the plight histories is really long. So back then was it was our final year project during we were studying KDU. It was called as KDU. Right now it's called UOW, I think. So that was our first project and my first tackle with horror games. Right? It's like
That was the one.
yeah, that was the one, the first game that was Ishan mentioning. That at that point of time, I wasn't very sure that I can design a horror games because I do play horror games like Dead Space, Resident Evil during back then at PS1 and all those while, but I lose touch on really grasp the idea of what is horror now, like during 2015. Yes, 2015, right? Back then, I had to play the most recent, which is Silent Hill PT, player teaser.
Ooh.
Yeah. So when we jumped to that wagon, I was like, hey, why don't we try do something new? And since we're students, we're gonna try challenge ourselves. Like the first time using Unreal Engine to make a game as a
That was fun.
yeah, the programmers and Ishan and me is like, oh, it's a new engine, it's hyped, and with a bunch of idiots as well to work on something they can deliver in six months.
Like,
Is it 6 months?
Disclosure, it wasn't exactly new then, but neither was it the most user-friendly thing in the world yet,
Yeah.
compared to now. But yeah,
Yeah. Okay. So to speed things up, the plight right now is like we didn't really like it. Like I would say like it in a way. I would say not ready to release to public yet because our budget, our manpower. I would say also our knowledge that we also want to try to achieve many things in that project in a particular IP. That's why we also want to do something small, which is what Short Creepy Tale is, to help us to build our fan base, to build the people who know us, and to really tell that I mean, this is pretty blunt. Like, would Malaysia really support by purchasing a game in like Malaysia-made games? Because we tend to buy a lot of Japanese games. We tend to buy Western games, right? That's why Sony PlayStation makes such a good sales, and Nintendo also makes such a good sales as well, like and Xbox even. And knowing those things, like, can Malaysia actually achieve to that standard? We didn't know back then, right? We didn't know all the results. It's very, very, like, would say, dark area there. And we didn't know that whether or not we can achieve it. So when we actually finished the plight, we played it again and again, tried to polish again and again. We don't feel it's ready. We don't feel it's ready to current standard, despite that we gained huge amount of attractions that Markiplier played it. And there's so much people played it, like our beta version.
well, the
first version that we did on final year project as student. So we were hyped, like whoa, and people like it, people enjoy it, people find Chinese things is very fresh, I would say, in the horror environment. Then, which is environment as a genre itself, and then it's like then we went to do our own thing as well. Like we think like it's not ready to really found a company yet, and then Ishan do his own thing, I do my own thing because I was born a game jam as well, and then I work with other people as a client, did a few years project. Then only we go back to work on full time on the plight, and then we feel that it's not ready until now, even until 2020. We left it as it is, that we let publisher play it, we let most of the people play it. They feel like it has so much potential, but it's just that we don't have that budget to pull it off. Yeah, we don't have that really huge budget and also the manpower and expertise to really pull it off. So I don't think that it's wise to really release a not quality game as we did for 7 p.m. The longer ahead that this is a 2 weeks game jam. So we release for free and see how people think. We get the results, and then during 2018 we got nominated as well for the visual thing. And as Ishan and I know that people like the visuals, and then we push even further for the 7 p.m. which is spend a little more time in tight budget to see where it goes, which is what happens at today.
Longer Hair was actually right in the middle of that, in the middle of making the plight when we were all feeling like burned out about that.
Yeah. So during that journey until now, that having we are also very honored that thankful to all people that supported us to really like or acknowledge us or give us the validations thing that 7 p.m. actually made through with like best game design, best visuals, and grand jury even. It feels like we got on something. We got on something on a train that we are still picking which direction to go. We know which direction we want to go rather than who can help us to reach to that goal, right? To join us and partner with us. So what's our going next step? It's more likely it's gonna be short creepy tales. It's more like a series. We aim for like more different stories we want to deliver and aim for even bigger project. So the budget will be bigger, the people we hire is gonna be higher, and the expertise we require is more experts and veterans as well. And we want to go there, and so many challenges. One thing is company growth. This is not a really not an easy task. I would say that you will know yourself, like company growth and hiring new people comes to management, comes to expertise, and making games is as hard as it is. And want to talk about studios things, that's a different challenge as well. We have to look and prepare ourselves mentally and planning and project plan and business plan as well. That's our next step for
those 3 days of not sleeping, that's mostly where it came from.
Yeah.
Nice.
To having looking for the right people, talking to the right people, getting the informations that help us to gauge our scope, I would say, project scope, the things that we want to push for.
That being said, I think great. The plight was just a question of timing and having backed ourselves into a corner about it. It definitely, I think the concept personally is still near to my heart, because it's triple homicide. but yeah, I think it's absolutely true, right? We looked at it and we thought, this is not good. This is if we would rather this not be out there than it be under our names and like basically be mediocre. So I think we still want to learn what we want to make it into. The concept I think won't change that much, but I definitely want to like eventually get back to developing that and seeing what we can do with it. But in the more immediate future, yes, like the short creepy tales anthology is definitely what's more like on the docket, I guess you could say. But we can say about the episode that we have planned is that there's going to be one character from 7 p.m., like a kind of a pivotal character from 7 p.m. who makes an appearance there. Well, not so much just an appearance, like the story's kind of built around her.
Her.
Yes.
Crossover.
Oh,
we will say nothing else.
That's a
It's a hint.
hint.
MDEC take notice. MCMC, right? Starbucks.
And grab.
Alright, grab.
No.
Alright, so that's about it for the short Creepy Tales panel. Thank you so much. It was very detailed and there was a lot of insight that was going on. Like, wow, now I feel inspired to be a game developer. Like,
Incentives include not sleeping for 3 days.
wow.
I mean,
nice.
depending. Like if you're a night owl, then it's like, yeah, that's where I live. Cool. I can do that.
Alright, so moving on, let's move on to some other questions, and the podcast will now go into the direction of relating towards the general game development scene in the Malaysian community. Alright, so the first thing I want to ask you guys, like genre basis, will horror be the main genre for Cellar Vault Games, or are you looking to branch into other types of genres for games as well?
Ooh, eventually,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
eventually, yeah, definitely. We
Like-
don't try to just horror. It's just that the things
I
that
think
quite
I think we know how to do horror now, and
Yeah.
that's really exciting. But yeah, absolutely. I think like okay, even before getting into game development, right? A genre that I am like a hardcore crazy fan of is science fiction, but like kind of classical science fiction and hard technical science fiction. It's like honestly, it's going to be a little bit tough figuring out how to translate that into an interactive, but just see anything that has like a near accurate scientific basis, like per aspera, that gets me going. And it would be really cool to have like a narrative that's set in that kind of palette. I think. Benny, do you mind if I talk a little bit about Dark Shift?
Yeah, I don't mind. I don't mind.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Especially when Grab is hearing, don't mind.
Gotta-
Go ahead.
Gotta
So-
do this board of directors
Hi,
meeting
Grab.
first. Hey, cannot. Okay, let's go.
Yeah, so a long time ago in a galaxy far away. No, a long time ago. I think this has got to be 7 years ago.
Wow.
I think second year of college, right? One
Yeah,
of the
that's
major.
14.
No, it was. Oh yeah. It was. It would have been 2014, right? I think this cornerstone group project that was part of our courses, like it was basically when the three departments, the three specializations met for the first time in a collaborative effort to make a 2D game project. And I remember that distinctly because I think that was the first time I ever worked on a game asset, and we didn't know anything about preparation requirements, about like memory requirements, like how the engine worked. We were using Unity, and I'd never seen Unity before, and it was traumatic. But yeah, so like that basically was I think the first time Benny and I worked together in a team of like 15 other people.
Wait, is it 15? Holy shit!
It was 15 people, and I was the
I
only
meant
artist, and it was very, very
oh,
upsetting. I have a bad habit of getting into groups where I'm the only artist, and it's totally fine. And that's great. It's all is well. But yeah, basically obviously we only had 3 months to work on it, right? But we basically made something called Dark Shift, which was about a robot that wakes up on a space station in some undisclosed part of the universe. And I'm saying the universe because we really did not pick an exact place. And this you play this robot, and you sort of like explore further into the space station. You find out that it's been invaded by an alien species that has adaptive parts of it, but there are also other robots on the space station instead of humans. And you sort of like, the deeper you go, you find out more about the robot ecosystem and how it interacts with the aliens. And obviously, again, 3 months, and we hadn't really gotten into. We'd never really made a game before. We'd never even made game assets before, so it was like such a shock.
Basically,
of,
we
like
trying
trying
to for fire.
Yes, and it was all right. But yeah, that was really, really exciting because like even though we didn't get far in the story, definitely at one point it would be cool to revisit that concept and really get into the details of like, okay, how would a robot ecosystem actually work in the absence of human beings and in the presence of this like other sentient, not quite cooperative alien mechanism, and like how far can that go? But yeah, like in all to answer, yes to science fiction. Yes to science fiction and CBG's future.
So it's going to be science fiction for Benny, and science fiction for Espan. Whereas Benny, what would the genre that you would like to explore?
Grab is watching.
It's
Can someone please start a hashtag Grab is watching?
I don't really have. I guess it's just really my personal preference when it comes to making games. That when it comes to playing games, I like action games, right? I like MMORPG because that's also the Link's Arrow, Ragnarok Online, and all those era. I play those games when I grow up, and then if you want to come making games, right? I don't have really particular genres. It's more like what can my team members or Ishan, included co-founders and everything, can want to do. Then I will meet to their requirement. I will research that kind of genre, right? As a CVG studio, right? If I would make my own games, like nothing have to do with CVG, which is Cellar Vault Games, I would just do anything I want. I would say maybe I mix it up a different genre. It can be action puzzles or puzzle racing. Can be puzzles sort with sports and everything. I can do some crazy things.
You said
that
puzzle 3 times.
Yeah.
So you said puzzle.
Freudian slip.
Things I can pop in my
Freudian
head, right?
slip.
Right. Yeah. So that's where I'm going at. So I don't have any particular genres to really work on as a CVG. It's more like what the team wants and is it feasible? Is it workable with the current manpower or current knowledge and team member? Because making different genre games is really also boils down to the technical stuff. You know.
You're a very practical person. Like you scope and you see everybody before you make a decision. That's
Yeah, I mean I heard that correctly, right? It was technical stuff and not tentacle stuff, right?
wow.
Technical, yes. Programming. Yes.
Yeah. Just to be sure, right? Like, to make sure everything is crystal clear.
Grab is watching. That
Indeed.
is watching.
Indeed.
Indeed.
That's why we just have to be, very specific with the words that we use instead of tentacle and technical, which sound very similar, right? But anyways, I like to take a big scope approach. You guys have won awards, right? And let's talk about the biggest game awards that happened this year.
It begins.
The Game Awards.
He's quaking. It's like,
So, do you agree with the winner? And if not, which I hope you guys do, right? Please don't agree with the winner, right? Anyways, what is your choice for Game of the Year this year? Or probably what's the best game you've played this year?
Game of the year.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Hold on a second. I need to reposition my camera. Okay.
How do I put this? So, common questions is agree or not agree, or my opinions, is it?
Yeah. First, agree. Whether do you agree with the winner? And the second question is, if you don't agree, what's your Game of the Year?
I can't give really because I usually give very detailed opinions about games. That's just my profession. And being said, I can't really say agree or not agree, but I think that I just trusted their judgment on their picking The Last of Us 2 as the winner, because first, I didn't play the games. Every game's listed out there as listed in Game of the Year nominations. So I can't really give a very, I would say, 100% sure of my opinion on those games, right? But I think, The Last of Us really do really well, and amongst of other games as well. I think they really deserve pulling off the Game of the Year thing, because that really tells that what audience want, right? The audience looking forward to. Ishan?
Yeah, so I think, similarly, right, I think the only game in this lineup that I've actually played is Animal Crossing, which I love. But that being said, right, The Last of Us has a very, very difficult place in my heart, because I think both The Last of Us and The Last of Us Part 2, right, it's just, without a doubt, probably the most brilliant piece of interactive narrative that I've ever seen in my life. And I can say that with confidence. I didn't play it. I did see the entire playthrough though, right? I have not seen anything that has gotten that intense, that has hurt me so deep. with the way it was set up. In terms of story, right? A lot of people maybe like have a bit of stuff to say about the decisions they made, but I have to say, right, on the whole, what they did was just mind-bogglingly beautiful and just, again, the best pain I've ever felt.
Wow.
That being said, right,
Wow.
I think right, to say whether or not they deserve the game of the year is a bit more complicated because like it kind of comes down to the criteria for game of the year. And this kind of reminds me of an article that I was reading on, I forgot where it was. It was either Gamma Sutra or GameInfo.biz, but it was kind of like defending the idea that The Last of Us Part 2 won a bunch of other awards in Best Production. And it was like basically highly contesting that because they did so under the conditions of crunch. And I'm actually really, really forced to agree with that because while it comes down to that idea of like, was it worth it? And I look at The Last of Us and it's a tough decision, right? Because I keep thinking, I want this to exist in the world. This is a masterpiece. There has not been anything like it, and this is absolutely something that makes people look at interactives and video games and take them seriously. You know, like I think if you just go back 5 or 7, I think 7 years would be a good mark because there was The Last of Us before that, right? If you go back 7 years and you talk to someone about video games, they would think about it as like a way to blow off steam, not something that you look to as an element of social commentary or something to really make you feel something, right? And I really think Naughty Dog, in basically everything they've done, but The Last of Us, both parts 1 and 2 particularly, they have definitely set that as the standard. They basically made it such that they've made video games that much more of a legitimate platform of art. However, they are also setting the precedent that, oh, if you want to make beautiful things, it's okay to burn people's lives. And that is insanely problematic to me. So I think it comes down to like it's basically a two-pronged but like conflicting answer in that they deserve the recognition for the excellent experience that they made, but I do think that they should be held accountable for the fact that they did it unsustainably.
Interesting take on The Last of Us 2 because I played the game and it was a total mess. But yeah, you know, that's because Grab is watching. Can't really say much.
But yeah,
Anyways.
the only games I play in that list is just Hades and Animal Crossing.
Man,
So
Hades is ridiculously good.
Hades?
Yeah, Hades.
I haven't played Hades yet,
Yeah.
but
Hades is ridiculously
as
good.
one would expect
I-
from Supergiant,
Yeah, Supergiant has just, I mean,
the little studio that could.
They know their
Exactly.
strength. They really know their strength.
yeah, I mean, like, they weren't really ambitious with what they were doing, you know. They
Yeah.
didn't exactly publish Hades 2077 and call it Cyberbug, right? Like, you know, because that's really the shame right here.
I mean, like, you know, they were receiving death threats on the other hand. Yeah.
Indeed.
How are they
Hades.
receiving death threats for?
No, as in like
The creators of Cyberpunk.
CD Projekt
Red,
Red.
yeah. They were
Oh,
receiving
right.
the
Oh,
death
yeah.
threats because they delayed it for like
Yeah,
a year,
actual
right?
death threats, not
Yeah.
digital ones, you know. So
Yeah,
Not
CD
really.
Projekt Red's
Yeah.
Was it digital?
situation.
it wasn't digital. And yeah, basically, I think narrative-wise, games that would have definitely been. I think Hades, what lacked in Dead Cells was probably a cohesive storyline, a way to continue the storyline for a roguelike game, and I
Oh,
think
see a
that's
roguelike
what.
fan here.
Sorry.
No, I can tell like you roguelike fan here mentioning Dead Cells and Hades.
Yeah, I mean, I played both, right? I mean, what sets Dead Cells apart from Hades is that probably the art style as well as the narrative structure. Because Hades, every run is a storyline.
Shout out to Gen Z. We love you so much. Please don't contact me.
and it's really amazing because that's a new way. That's a new take on narrative structures.
Yeah.
You see, you know,
It,
because
it's smart. Yeah, it's smart for them to also add in with the gameplay design as well. Every time you pick the new ability from different gods, it's like having a very conversations and dramas between the relationship between you, yourself, and the god as well. That's really play a really good designs over there when
yeah,
playing Hades.
the amount of like voice acting and like lines that the voice actors had to do was probably insane. That was definite, and I think they didn't do it under crunch. You know, I think that was the beautiful thing about Supergiant. You know, you don't hear like them overworking their staff, and that's really beautiful. The other narrative game that was in my books was basically Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Ooh.
If you guys have actually played the original Final Fantasy VII,
Unfortunately, no.
if you have played it right and you play the remake, it showcases what was possible 20 years ago and 20 years into the future. It was like a perfect balance,
Oof.
and the narrative is not the same. They changed up 20% of the narrative, right, to keep things interesting, which was a big gamble because nostalgia.
Yeah, because you isolate people.
Exactly. And nostalgia is the biggest game seller, right? Anything that is remastered or remade, right? You know it's gonna sell because people are familiar with said
Yeah.
franchise and said mechanics, and they like nostalgia. So what's bad about nostalgia when it's upgraded and enhanced, right? And in HD and upscaled, upscaled
RTX
4K, right? So they definitely nailed that one. You know, I feel that Seven had the biggest to lose if they had to change their narrative, because their narrative was one that is already set in stone and loved by many, but they still took the gamble for 20% of it, and they even rolled it, right? So yeah, I really felt that these two games should have been like at the forefront, but then damn, the SJW agenda took a really big movement in TGA this year. So TLU 2, a mess of a game, but award winning nonetheless.
Maybe it's beautiful, that's why.
I mean, no, it's because the critics all agreed in it, but the fans like was like a total backlash. So it is the most polarizing game of in history. You know, you never had that divide between fans and developers before. Sorry, critics and fans. You know, so like it's a very interesting situation, and the fans didn't win. So yeah, and the fans are the ones who's paying, right? Yeah, but I think last question
Yeah.
before we end the session.
Okay, now that you all have succeeded, right, and dah jadi senpai dalam community, right?
I don't know if we could say that just yet.
Okay, fine. Okay, now that you are senpais in general, cause you already graduate like 6 years ago, right? You 7 years ago, second year, you third year, fourth year, 6 years ago you graduate. Okay, my maths probably doesn't add up, but anyways, what is your advice that you would give to any aspiring game developer or student or like indie group of people who want to become game developers? What is your bak kata? Your bak kata, right?
Yeah.
What is bak kat pepatah? Bak pepatah kata.
Bak kata pepatah.
Bak kata pepatah. Yeah, correct, right?
Yeah, but what is the pepatah?
Yeah, now I'm asking them lah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, what is your advice? Your question took 1 minute to ask.
Is the wrong usage of bak kata pepatah. But anyways, right? It's like the song by Adele, Hello. It was a song that she wrote to address her past self. Basically, what would you tell your past self?
Manage yourself.
Yeah.
Right? What would you write? And treat that as advice to all the younglings out there, all the baby Yodas.
Benny, do you have anything in mind to begin with?
Honestly, I don't know what to say to my past self because I've been saying the same thing all this while. But if I would
That's true. That is so true, isn't it?
You should know me well, so he knows
Benny-
what I'm talking about.
Benny is one of the most neurotypical people I know. He has like zero internal conflicts. It's insane.
Wow.
But yeah, okay. Then I guess yeah.
I guess one sentence I can always tell to only for developer, right? Like in art, design, and tech, I'll always say the same thing. I will say two things then. One, make sure everyone know, if you are in a team, make sure everyone know what's the goal of the project. Answer that question first, right? And then second, then every one of you have the 100% sure and decide on the project scope in that amount of time you guys want to deliver. Because let us put this way, right? If you put so many feature in a game and you can't finish it, and all the features are very crappy when you release it, or would you rather have two feature very, very polished and very quality, and just let people play that two feature and let people feel that two feature, like, damn, it's so good. What next? What's the next thing they can do on the third and the fourth? Always remember these two big questions. When I talk about goal, you can say, is it freedom of speech kind of project? Like, you can do whatever you want. You have so many amount of money from your parents. Your parents is your bank, maybe, right? Or you want to make a project, it's a sustained project, means you want some return of investment project, or you want to make a project like you want to challenge yourself and among of the team members. So that's when I say that's the goal of the project. Which one you guys are making? So when anything's happen, like have arguments, issues that comes up later months and anything, always ask, is it still the same as the goal? Because we developer, especially designer, we always have new ideas. Let's say you work on 3 years project. You will always have new ideas at second year or the third year. Am I right? Right? New, fresh idea you want to put it in. But does it have to be ties down to the first moment of you want to start out the project, your goal? Does it have to relate to that? And can you achieve that? If it's not, put it aside, put it in a shelf, and then reevaluate on the next project.
Basically, I commit to whatever you've decided on in the first
Focus.
place and follow it through, basically.
Yeah.
Wow, Benny is so practical, like everything is practical.
Neurotypical, eh?
Neurotypical, yeah.
I mean, like, if one of us has to be the sane one, it's Benny. So, yeah.
It's nice knowing some things don't change, like food in Singapore, and
You know what? I have Singaporean relatives, so I do not want them to mob me on Facebook. I will say nothing.
no,
I
didn't say anything bad, just saying.
Neither did I. I certainly didn't criticize their quote unquote Hokkien mee. I said nothing. It's nothing.
Wow.
It's totally fine.
So, what about you, Eshan?
Okay, so it's actually interesting, all the stuff that Benny mentioned. I think that's for when you're working in a team. The stuff that I like, my letter to myself would be very, very like personal and individual, and it would happen before you commit to a team. And I think this definitely applies to people at large, but also, like, I think individually, right? Screw up early, screw up often, and don't let it hurt you, because if you don't learn how to screw up and take something useful away from that, it's going to hurt you forever. And if you let that happen, you'll waste time. Don't try and get things perfect the first time. You can't. You can't. And if you try, you're going to waste so much time trying to convince yourself that what you're doing is right. And it's not good for you. It's not good for the people around you. Don't be afraid of that failure. Like, everyone learns from failure. That's like, if the most basic concept in video games teach you anything, is that tacit learning is a necessary part of life. You have to die once before you realize that you can die.
It's just
don't apply that to life.
Like roguelike games.
Don't apply that to life. But scale down that factor and apply it to everything else. If you don't know that something can go wrong, you're not going to be prepared for things going wrong. And I think so. That's one half. I think the other half would be, don't be afraid of conflict. It is always going to be better to say something to the people you're working with in the long haul and have it out than try and pretend that everything's fine. It's not going to magically heal itself. If something if something is bothering you, you need to discuss it. You need to discuss it early, and you need to get it out of the way and find out what you're okay with. And I suppose the last thing is, you don't have to decide immediately what you like. You should be looking for it, but always be looking for it. Figure out what you want to make, and spend a lot of time trying to figure it out and getting that right. But no one can tell you what that is. So don't expect it to be what someone else wants to make. If you want to make something that doesn't align with what people want you to make, that is just the reality of it. And the faster you accept it, the sooner you can get to making something gorgeous. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Very deep.
Indeed.
Like, wow, like part of me was just like expecting like, oh, like if it was me, I would answer like, oh, I would tell like 5 years ago me to buy Bitcoin or something like that.
That's actually.
I mean, that too. If you know,
I think that is a really good advice.
if reverse entropy is a thing, and like somewhere in the future, someone inverts the record of me saying this, 13-year-old Ishan, buy $1,000 worth of Bitcoin. It will inflate. Do it right now. That's all I'm gonna say.
Right. And I think that's all the time that we have. Right. Thank you so much to Benny and Ishan, right? Cellar Vault Games. Do check them out. Follow them on their social media, right? Hopefully you guys have greater success in the future with your next outings, your next games, right? Once you become famous, come back to the place, right? Come back to the podcast, the Magic Ringcast, right? Tell us how you guys won the Game Awards. Right? That would be great, because the next horizon, the next step on the horizon is for a Malaysian company to win or at least get nominated for the Game Awards, right? And why not Cellar Vault Games, right? Right? Why not? Right? So
why not indeed?
Fly the flag, right? And I think that's all the time we have for me. This is me, CM Cha, signing off for the Magic Ringcast together with
Pats! Thank you so much for coming. To the audience, thank you guys for watching. We have like consistent around 7 to 8 people watching it throughout, so shout out to them. Thank you for watching, and thank you for being here today. Ashan, right?
Yeah.
Ashan, you said S1. Then I was like, wait, what? Yeah.
Whenever anyone says my name wrong, I go like, yes, they didn't remember. Awesome.
So no point in hiding it, right?
Yeah.
So it's not going to go into the record when the NSA comes after me later on.
Thank you, Ashwan, and thank you to Benny for being here together with us to do this podcast. It was very inspiring. Big brain
Thank
moment.
you for inviting us as well.
Yeah, no problem. All right, so
Thank you
that's
so
all
much.
from us today. With that, let's just do a long wave, wave. Okay, let's
Right.
wave.
I'm gonna
And say
do
bye at the
finger
same
guns.
time. Okay. Oh,
Nice,
okay.
finger guns.
All right.
Take care.
Everyone on the right side do finger
All
guns.
right, let's all say bye at the same time. Okay, bye everyone. Okay, 1, 2, 1.
All right,
Bye. That's quite cute. Oh, wait, let me press the button. Excuse me. All right, gotta okay. Bye.